let's turn now to our liturgy, and we're going to do something a little different. Last 2 weeks, I've been reading English and Hebrew and Greek, and what I started out with is Genesis 1:1 in the English, and then I turned to John 1:1 in the English, and then last week I read Genesis 1:1 in the Hebrew, and then I turned to John 1:1 in the Greek. And this week, as I promised last week, now I'm going to do something really wild. I'm going to turn to Genesis 1:1 in the Greek, and then John 1:1 in the Hebrew. You guys understanding? You following me? We're reversing the languages here. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to read the first 5 verses in Genesis, and we're going to read the first 5 verses in John. And in Genesis, we have a Greek rendering of the original Hebrew, a Greek translation called the Septuagint, which was made available nearly 200 years before the New Testament itself, near the time period that when Yeshua hit the scene in the first century. We had a Greek translation that was already being circulated and used by Greek-speaking Jews called the Septuagint. And there are 2 versions that are out there, 2 main versions. There are some other minor versions. 2 manuscript families that we could choose from. I'm just going to choose from one of them. And so if you look at your screen right now, what I've got is, let me see, can I make that bigger? Can I get a little bigger? Can I get, yeah, I think safely I can get a little, make the screen a little larger there, the font. What I've got on this page is English up here on the top. I've got Hebrew kind of in the middle. And then I've got some Greek on the left and right side of the page. And then as you can see, I've got some English on the bottom there. I'm not going to read any of the English or any of the Hebrew. I'm only going to focus on the Greek, and we'll read verses 1 through 5 from the Greek. And so, let me see, can I park it right there? Yeah, I think that'll work. All right, so you can see the English and the Hebrew, but I'm only going to read the Greek. Okay, you guys ready? This will be our liturgy for tonight. The Greek says, of verse 1, I'm not going to read the English. You can read it on your own. It's there on the page. But the Greek says, in arche epoiesin hotheos ton uradan kai tain gain. Verse 2 of Genesis chapter 1, I think I'll go like that. That way everybody can see. Verse 2 right there says, He dege ein aerotas kai akatas skuastas kai skatas epano tes abusu kai pneuma theu epipherito epano tu hudatas. Verse 3 right there. Oops, didn't catch all of it. Well, verse 3 says, Kai apen ha theos genetheto phos. Kai egeneto phos. And verse 4 says, Kai aden ha theos to phos hati kalan. Kai diakorsin ha theos ana meson tu photos. Kai ana meson tu skatus. And then the final verse, verse 5, says, Kai ekalasin ha theos to phos himeron kai ta skatas ekalasin nukta. Kai egeneto espera, kai egeneto proi himera mia. And that'll do it for the Greek of Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 through 5. Now let's use a web resource from sarshalom.us, which is a Messianic congregation that is available online, and they've got a rendering of one of the Hebrew renderings from the original Greek. There are a number, probably about half a dozen, semi-reliable versions of Hebrew. Some of them go back hundreds of years old, and some are more modern Hebrew, but this is a version that's kind of right in the middle, if I remember. I don't remember exactly which version. I'll tell you later on if I remember. Maybe I'll jump down to the bottom of the page and find out. But this is a rendering of the Greek into Hebrew. So let's read this. John 1, verse 1. You can see there's English on the right side of the page, but I'm not going to read that. I'm just going to read the Hebrew over on the left side of the page there. So, starting at verse 1, John 1:1 in the Hebrew says, Bereshit haya hadavar, v'hadavar haya et ha'Elohim, v'hu hadavar haya Elohim. Verse 2 says, Hu haya merosh et ha'Elohim. Verse 3, Kol hama'asim nihu al yado ve'ein davar asher na'asa mi baladaiv. Verse 4 says, Bo nimza chayim V'ha'chaim him or ha'adam. And verse 5 says, V'ha'or zoreach b'choshek, v'ha'choshek lo yechilenu. And that'll do it for the for the Hebrew of this particular rendering. Let me drop all the way down to the bottom of the page. And it says, as far as Hebrew, this is, here we go, it says right here, the Hebrew source is the Salkinson-Ginsburg Hebrew New Testament. That's the source for that particular Hebrew that I read there. And that'll do it for our liturgy for tonight.